with us by level of cool. Grammy Award-winning producer. He kind of was doing these things when all of us were just trying to be musicians, and he was producing records, really producing records when we were trying to be just playing. So ladies and gentlemen, Grammy Award winner Mr. Madukwu Chinwa. Next person I'm gonna bring to the stage is somebody who is legendary, not just here, but all over the country and now all over the world. He is also a Grammy-winning musician and producer and musical director and drummer and keyboard player and church organist and arranger. He is on the cover of the January edition of Drum Magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert C. Wright. Or Spud, I'm sorry, Spud. We'll bring him to the stage. Next, coming to the stage is, he used to be the little brother, I can't say that no more, but he's just a phenomenal musician, musical director, producer, the likes of everybody hot in the industry right now. He is making it happen for them, okay? His humility, you know, generally just kind of lets him be like, yeah, I'm cool. But seriously, right now, as Justin Timberlake is touring with Tennessee Kids, he's there making it happen. He's on break from Janet Jackson's Unbreakable tour right now, where he's making it happen. And if you see footage of stuff that Janet has going on, he's always front and center, calling the shots, getting the band ready behind stage, doing all these different things. So Timberlake to Janet, I've seen him with Joe, I've seen him with Deborah Cox, did some production on the Michael Jackson record. Ladies and gentlemen, I have, I know your gigs, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Daniel Jones, give it up for Daniel. And we are missing we're missing Sean Martin right now. He is on the way, and what we're gonna do is make a big deal and embarrass him when he gets here, all right? Right, he will. He'll be right here in just a second. So here's how we're gonna do this, all right? I want you brothers, y'all can just kind of pass that mic, you know, or y'all got 3 mics, okay? Here's how we're gonna do this. The first topic. Can each of you give us real quick a little bit of your musical history and your background? We'll start with Madukwu.
I started, I had a rap group. I was a rapper first. A rapper, school of Run DMC, you know, all that thing. But I was already getting into playing multiple instruments. My junior year in high school, my teacher, my counselor, I told her I wanted to be in the band. I'd never played an instrument. And she said, the kids will be too far ahead of you. I came back senior year, won a talent show as a musician. So that felt good to me. It was a nice fit. I'd always seen music around town, and early on, I met an 18-year-old Kirk Franklin at my college. He was recording a song called I Want to Be Ready and a couple of other songs. It was his first time recording, so I was trying to give him some assistance so he could be big like me someday, you know? So that relationship led to a live recording at his church where Ricky Womack, another gospel artist who I had looked up to, Ricky was there, and one thing led to another. In a short amount of time, I had found myself performing with the James Moores and the Yolanda Adams, coming in real rich, you know, nice company of songs that were affiliated with Malaco and Savoy Records. And then I ran into the young ones. The young ones are these monsters who invited me into their world. Oh, the Robert C. Wrights, et cetera, et cetera. They already had their thing going. And with me being older than them, they invited me to hang out and to be the low man on the totem pole, so to speak, to get my chops up, et cetera, et cetera. So, some of them say I inspired them to do production, and I accept that because everything boils down to that which is recorded. Jam sessions were great, but I wanted to read their names on credits. So I would tell them all the time, I wanted to people to know how great they were. One person on this stage came back from a part of a tour, and they told me of a great producer who they had met, and I remember telling them that great producer had met him, because that's how I feel about my people. I don't wait till artists are signed to give them love. You don't have to sell one record. Great is great, and I believe every man has a fan. So, Erykah Badu, 1994, I did a gospel project that included Erykah singing about Jesus. Jesus, lots of Jesus. She did it for me. I had known her since about the 9th grade, and she was glad to do that. I failed to mention that in 1990, I remember her saying, I want to be a singer. And I remember myself saying, I want to be a producer. 1994 rolled around, and it had already happened. We spoke it, and it happened. I remember us being in New York in her apartment, and I thought that was really cool. One thing led to another, because you all remember how quickly she became popular. I started getting phone calls from everywhere and doing work for a lot of people who you may know or may not know. You know, the nature of this business is you do a song, you don't know what kind of life it's gonna have. So when I got a call saying that my work was gonna be on the film Hoodlums or Eve's Bayou, it was a big deal to me coming from out of Oak Cliff. I learned a lot of things about how big this thing was. I didn't realize how big it was till I heard from Harpo Studios trying to get clearance for rim shot, and certainly I said, this is starting to feel good. And Erykah said, that song that you wrote back in the day is perfect for this film. That's where Love of My Life came from. So never throw away material that you have. Never throw away material.
And I grew up in church, grew up in a church called Full Gospel Holy Temple. The most delivered church in the world. Where you couldn't do nothing, literally. I mean, like, it was crazy. So I was, at a young age, my mom and my dad both were musicians. So my dad was like a undercover musician. He just would play at home. So nobody really knew he played drums and played the organ. But my mom was a minister of music at a church, so everybody knew she could play. So I had music growing up in the house from them two, and so it turned into drums maybe like at the age of 4 when my mom bought me my first drum set. So was always put in a position to be around great musicians because they just exposed me to all these rehearsals and all these concerts that was coming through town. At that time, it was only gospel music. So it was only gospel music. And I remember having an uncle that was, through marriage, he was married to my auntie. And my auntie, she looked just like Anita Baker, just like her. I loved her. So I thought she was Anita Baker, but she looked just like her. But they moved to Dallas, and he was a DJ. And make a long story short, they didn't work out. And so she was very angry at him, and so she took all his vinyl records, all of them, and hid them at our house. Yes! And, right, so all of a sudden this kid that grew up in this church where you couldn't do nothing had all this music, you know, where I had this, you know, I had all this music at my feet, so I was now listening to more than gospel music, you know, so I was very much influenced by the music of the 70s and the 60s and the 70s. So make a long story short, I grew up, I wanted to be a scientist, and I didn't want to be a musician. I didn't know at the time I was going to be a musician, but I could play. Just thinking I was going to finish my career, my high school, you know, going to a high school of science, Pinkston or something like that. And my mom took me out of that school, Thomas Edison, after 7th grade and put me in a school called Oliver Wendell Holmes. No, I went there, I was mad, because I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to leave the school of science, but it changed my entire life, because now because I could play and I was just raw. I didn't have any theory or any training. This was the other balance to, now it was an introduction to the real side of music. You know, that led me to go to arts, where I met Geno and so many other musicians that are very famous from this Dallas area. I met these guys and we were going to school every day and creating our own world in that school, within those walls at that school, we was doing shows, we were writing our own shows, writing our own music. They knew me, it was just a joke. He can tell you that I was always into this place called the MIDI Lab, which it was like probably the reason why I almost didn't graduate high school, because I had a key to this place.
True.
Like, I would just lock myself in a room during lunchtime. I was a skinny kid because I never ate, because during lunchtime I would just go straight to the room and I would just trying to do covers and sequence, redo mid-condition songs and all this kind of stuff. And everybody knew me from being in the MIDI Lab. So that was my thing in high school, and I went there for 4 years and set up on the Eva Flowers and all of these people that influenced my life. And after high school, well, during the latter part of my high school year, this guy came up to us and asked us if we would be interested in doing a gospel choir contest. And it became, long story short, a community choir that we snuck and did on the weekends. And we had differences with the guy who was trying to take credit for everything that we was doing, and we tried to do our own thing. So we started a group called New Deliverance, which turned into a group called God's Property, that went on and traveled the world, and we did a song called, we did a record called Stomp that was featured, that was produced by Kirk Franklin. Sean Martin is walking in right now.
Hi, Sean. How's it going?
Everybody give it up for Sean Martin. No, everybody give it up for Harold LaShawn Martin. Okay, I'm sorry.
I just want to say I overslept. I'm sorry, y'all. Hey, y'all, how y'all doing?
So you're seeing the history, and we're gonna keep diving. We got Madukwu and the Erykah Badu doing this thing, but you see the church influence all throughout here. We got God's Property started right here. We're gonna go to Daniel next. Give us
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. See, I wasn't a church. Well, I'm a church dude, but I wasn't like that. I'm from Oak Cliff, but I went to Oak Grove Missionary Baptist Church that's in Ferris, and we wasn't this musically inclined. People down there, when they drink the water, their teeth turn brown, and it was real church where, like, sometimes the organ would come on, or you have to go there a little earlier for the furnace, turn the furnace on, and then you have to run the Leslie a little harder to just hold it like 15 minutes. If you know anything about organ playing, no, okay, cool. But where I'm from a place where it was just about, hey, you being you and the community. My grandmama didn't play that. My mother was just a hard worker. She had me young. But my mother took me to go see Michael Jackson at Reunion Arena when I was in the kindergarten. She
Messed his whole life up.
She won the tickets singing a Michael Jackson song on the radio. And so I don't have this, I mean, I love God, of course. I mean, I know I got a beer in my hand. But me, and I tell her this all day, like me going to see Michael and waking up like this when he was doing Beat It. I don't know if you remember that concert, but if you see it, when he does this, he's flying over the, Mama, that's Michael! Boom. That's my life. And my stepdad, who I always call my dad, who's been in my life my whole life, we was in the room with these type of vinyls, not CDs, but listening to, I looked at the LaDeal and, who is Reed, Anthony Reed, who is LaFace, who is these people? Oh, who is Steely Dan? That's the type of life I lived. You know, hey, I want to be that hardcore church player, but I was on the other end like, Now, I want to be Prince. I want to rock out, come in with my motorcycle, get the women and boom, be a rock star. And then I guess because of Victor Speedy McRae, I know you. That's how you missed that. That's right. But that's my background, because that's where I come from. All right, yeah.
And I'm gonna make a connection real quick. Sean, all we're doing is giving just a brief history of your musical background, just how you got started in music, or what inspired you to just start up.
What inspired me to start up? I mean, where I come from, I came from Oak Cliff, Texas.
All right.
You know what I'm saying?
True.
You know, Keats and Pope, Fawn Ridge, Jackson Square, all of that. We lived in the houses around. Actually, I grew up down the street from here.
We grew up in the same neighborhood.
You know, and that's pretty much, you know, that's where I came from. Musically, I came from just a rich heritage of like jazz, gospel, R&B, pop. I took classical piano lessons for a long, long time from a lady named Miss Campbell, Carolyn Campbell, who lived on the same street that he grew up on, Terry-Y'all.
Yep.
And she lived up the hill, he lived down the hill. And that's pretty much how everything started. Started out playing in church, the Lighthouse Gospel Center. And then Pastor Sam Nixon, so Sam was like,
down the street from my church.
Down the street from his church, Full Gospel. And
we didn't do nothing.
You know, I used to have like I used to take all yeah, y'all couldn't do nothing. Yeah, still can't do nothing. But nonetheless, but you know, one thing about it though, Pastor Nixon kind of saw, you know, what was in me before anybody else saw what was in me. So he made my mother put me down there with all the musicians, you know, and say, you know, put them down there in the music pit, you know, over all the musicians. So I'd be able to have my little fork and spoon, you know, my little knives. I'm trying to play the drums or whatever. And then after a while, you know, everything just kind of evolved, you know, from there.